Bill George. He's a senior fellow at Harvard Business School. And he says this is, quote, a tragedy for the company. Bill, those are, tragedy, I usually think of something really horrible, like a plane crash. Why do you put it at that level?
Well, first of all, Steve showed poor judgment doing this. The board is very strong. They did the right thing, David. But I feel that he has done a fantastic job for 3.5 years. This company was going straight downhill, going the route of Sears Roebuck, and he brought it back the last 3.5 years. Now, the good news is he brought in Chris Kosimski to be his head of U.S., who is now going to succeed him. And they've got a very strong management team today. He brought in 11 of the 14 senior officers are new. So he's revived the whole company. He's taken it into AI and much more automation, the $4 billion in-store, the home delivery business, the in-store pickup, the automated kiosk in over half of their stores. So he's done a terrific job, I think. And the menu offerings are much better today. And so here's a brand that could really go downhill, and he's brought it back. And I think it's a tragedy because they were going the right way, and he's doubled the stock, as you just pointed out, in a tough environment for retail. And he's got same-store sales up 5%, 5% U.S., 6% international. So all in the right direction. That's why I said that.
Right. Interesting. It's not the first and won't be the last time that we see this kind of behavior resulting in a forced exit. Boards are sort of, they have to do this, right? I mean, even though Mr. Easterbrook is divorced, not that and it's consensual relationship, obviously. It doesn't matter, I guess, when you're the CEO at this point in the world we live in right now. If you have a relationship with an employee, you've got to leave.
That's right, David. And he personally was involved in rewriting the code of conduct. So can you enforce it for his subordinates? Can you enforce it to all the employees and not enforce it for the CEO? So this board had no choice. It's a good board, and so they did the right thing. Frankly, they did the right thing 3.5 years ago in removing Don Thompson, replacing him with Steve, and allowing him to bring in a much stronger team than they had before. So this is not the old guard. This is the new guard. So, yeah, I think boards have no chance today. It's very much like Brian Kranich at Intel, who's doing a great job out there and had to be replaced for the same reason. So. Just a good lesson to anyone. If a CEO, we tell people at Harvard, David, you're a public figure, and your behavior must be above reproach because you have to set the standard for the whole company.
In terms of the process of how this whole thing went down, it sounds like they received a tip that this consensual relationship was going on. The board had an investigation. They took action and then disclosed it appropriately. How would you assess the process by which this whole thing went down? Do you think that they did the right thing in terms of how they announced this news to the market?
I think they did, and they announced it. They've acted quickly. They have a successor in place. And by the way, Chris's successor as head of the U.S. has come in from international. And they've got other talented people like Lucy Brady, who could be a potential CEO someday. She's head of strategy and business development. So, and she's done a lot of this great work I was alluding to earlier. So they've got a good team. Well, the board acted correctly. They had to do an investigation. You can't just take a tip and assume it's correct. You have to look into it, and they did. So I give them an A+ on governance. Again, I think it's sad.
All right, let's move on to Under Armour, where I would guess your grade might be less in terms of the board. Specific, Bill, to this question of disclosure, when you've got the SEC and the Department of Justice investigating accounting practices at a company for 2+ years, but you haven't told investors. Now, they have leeway on this, I know, but I'm curious to get your perspective on what the obligations you think are of a board and a management team to divulge these kinds of things.
David, I'm a transparency person. I say when you have the information, get it out there, tell people what you know as soon as you know it, even if you're still studying the matter. And I think they withheld this information. It's not appropriate for investors. Now they have a criminal investigation of the Justice Department. These things can get very, very messy. And frankly, one of the easiest ways that companies get in trouble is revenue recognition, shifting things from one quarter to the next. And it seems pretty clear to me what under Kevin Plank, Under Armour was trying to do is keep this tremendous sales growth going, or keep the impression of it growing. And as the sales slowed, they weren't willing to acknowledge it, hoping, well, maybe next quarter, maybe we can move some sales out. And that then the following year, that mountain gets higher and higher, and you get in deeper and deeper trouble. So I always say, face reality, look at yourself in the mirror and say, what did I do about that? David, I'm going to go one step further here. This is very serious. They need a clean sweep. And so, yes, they brought in Patrick Frist to become CEO. I think that's an excellent move. He's had a great retail background. It's a very small board. Often these are founder-dominated board like you see in Silicon Valley. Kevin's not stepping aside until January 1st. I think he needs to resign now. And I think they need to bring in an outside.
Yeah, Bill, what you mean of the board as well? You know, we should point out, by the way, Under Armour says they've done everything appropriately in terms of accounting. We obviously don't know the outcome yet of this investigation, which apparently has been going on. But when you say clean sweep, you mean Plank out as executive chairman and much of the rest of the board as well?
No, by that I mean Plank to resign. He's also chief brand officer, so he's involved. And the SEC and Justice are going to look at this. As long as the founder's there, they're going to have trouble getting the whole story. And so I think they needed to have a distinguished chairman. Let Patrick Frist. They've got big problems in retail. Big competition from Nike now that John Donahoe's going there. Nike's going to be more aggressive. At Adidas under Casper Rorsted. Tough competition, David. So I think he's going to have to, they need to bring in an outside chair to help them navigate these accounting practices and get through very tough jobs. Maybe Krongard from Alex Brown, who's in his 70s, maybe he could step up and do it. But I think they need that person who is impeccable integrity, no questions. And so that's why I think it's almost impossible for Kevin to do that. And that's why I think to protect himself and his own stock and his legal position, he needs to step aside.